They did show a package of Roman Reigns and Rey Mysterio from SmackDown, and it looked better than anything on the show thus far in the night on Hell in a Cell. But anyway, then we get to the Charlotte and Rhea Ripley package. And they try to do these packages on every match. And as I mentioned before, sometimes they're good. They have a great studio. They have a great production team. But sometimes the story they got to tell is either incomprehensible or just goofy. But in this case, again, I like these girls because I believe these girls. That's the difference. They seem serious. They're pissed off at each other. It's a fight. They want to prove something to each other. They're not winking. How many other different ways can I say this in English words, Brian? Can you figure it out a different way that I can convey this? That I don't think these girls are phony. They just don't come off like they're being told to say these things. They come off more like they really believe it. Do you disagree with me? Am I alone in this?
No, these are two of my favorite women's wrestlers in the world. They both also look like athletes and look like wrestlers. And that's not to put down anyone else, but there are a lot of women who are fit, but tiny.
Yes.
There are a lot of smaller women. And I'm not saying, get out of the business, and maybe that's what you'll say, but I'm not saying that, but I'll
say it later on.
When you see Charlotte and Rhea Ripley, they look like athletes. They look like they should be there. And I think Charlotte and Rhea Ripley come across serious because they are serious. And they take, based on the way they are in the ring, you could tell they take it seriously. And they take a lot of pride out of their work.
And here's something. Charlotte, if you compare Charlotte to a Ric Flair, you can compare a Bayley to somebody like a Tully or an Arn in that they are not as genetically gifted with just the look and the physical charisma of a person standing there like Flair, but they actually were probably more solid workers especially with Tully, just a guy that controlled the tempo and the pace and was always in the right place. And that's Bayley is that kind of old style heel that's always in control of the situation. She just doesn't look like the 6 foot tall, Charlotte Flair. Rhea Ripley has a completely different look, whereas Charlotte looks and carries herself like a star with the robes, but she's a classic, timeless wrestling heel persona of the great male heels. Because Flair, it wasn't just the nickname, the Nature Boy. Flair had charisma of the type, carried himself the type that Buddy Rogers did. That kind of stuff is timeless. Whereas Rhea Ripley looks and has the looks and charisma more of a modern baby face. She's got the fucking spikes and the punk rock and the whatever. She wouldn't look not good, but it wouldn't look right for her to come out wearing a long robe like Charlotte. That's not her look. That's not her gimmick, but you don't believe that they're just wearing these things and that they're just acting this way. They come off like those people. And also both girls are bigger than the referee. That's a plus there. But that's why that I think it's not about who can do a goddamn backwards triple Lindy off the top rope, or who, I'm sure Asuka can do a variety of wrestling holds that neither one of these girls would feel comfortable with. But I'm talking about to draw money on a big time basis. You need people who not only look like stars, but who come off like they are being themselves instead of someone that they are told to be. And that's why I like these two girls. And I like this match. I don't know if I like this match as much as last year's WrestleMania match when they had the best performance because they were the only ones that didn't try to do bullshit that you should be doing in front of fans when they had no fans. They just concentrated on being athletic and letting you come in close and hear the grunts and the moans and the smacks. But they can work. It's not about the multitude of moves, and it's not about the the awe, it's inspiring, jaw-dropping, ballet-like accuracy of people diving off the top rope and going through cheerleading routines. They worked a contest. And they pay attention to the little things that mean something. Charlotte worked the best-looking chin lock that I've seen in ages. Just because she had Rhea Ripley's face out there where everybody could see it was getting smushed, but she was still tight around it. There were a few bobbles. At one time, Ripley was down on her knees, and Charlotte went to kick her, and I think Ripley turned the way that Charlotte wasn't supposing she was going to, and she whiffed it. But she covered up quick. She just started throwing kicks like she was frustrated. Like, I'm going to fucking kick at you till I get you. But they kept up the pace of a contest where shit made sense if one person was trying to beat the other one. Ripley threw a missile drop kick in, got her clover leaf, but Charlotte rolled through it. Charlotte did a moonsault and a backflip cover thing, but it made sense. She goes to moonsault and Ripley moves, but she lands on her feet and then backflips from there and nails her anyway. It was a counter. You can say Ripley sells well, not only with her facials, but just with her body language. She telegraphs some pain instead of just the standard by the numbers thing. They built to some false finishes. The big superplex that Ripley hit, she got a 2 count, but both of them sold it big. They weren't popping right back up. Ripley hits her, the pump handle, the riptide. Charlotte gets the foot on the ropes, reminded me of Flair, and just the same way he'd do it right at the last second, which you can't do unless you know exactly where it is, and she did. Charlotte got the figure 4, and Ripley rolled, and they got the ropes. Both went on to the floor. Honestly, at that point, I was thinking that these two were on a step ahead of everybody on the show, male or female, so far that night. And all of a sudden, Ripley hits fucking Charlotte with the top of the announcer's desk, the sneeze guard or whatever it is, and the referee rings the bell. Out of nowhere, again, who's coming up with these finishes? These talents are having good matches, and then the finishes are just thrown out there like shit at a wall. And that, Brian, correct me, have we not seen somebody take the desk apart and hit somebody with it on almost every fucking program since we've been watching these things?
Every WWE program, yeah.
So when did it become, not saying it shouldn't be a disqualification, but if it's not going to be up until now, why was it here? If it was going to be a disqualification, you can't mean to tell me that somebody couldn't have given them a little bit more of a roller coaster ride first and a little bit more of a reason to do it. I think there ought to be more disqualifications when they're called for and when they're built to and when it leaves people wanting to see more rather than, oh, fuck, that just happened all of a sudden. Nobody does DQs properly anymore, but they help to further a program or to fucking confuse the issue in an angle or whatever the case. But you can't just do it like this. That was the most abrupt thing of the whole night, wasn't it?
I guess. I mean, the night was filled with abrupt things.
And then they kept fighting. After that, and Ripley left Charlotte down, but it was almost like it was so out of place that it was almost like one of those deals where the referee sees something and has no choice but to call it, even though that wasn't the real finish, and then they all just try to make up, and then they wander off disgusted. But there were no foreign objects in this match. They didn't fight outside the ring. There was no gymnastics or cheerleading routines. They made it a contest, and I thought they had a really good match, and it was a lousy, cheap, abrupt finish. For what reason, I have no idea. Is it just that nobody remembers good DQs these days? It's been so long?
I don't think there's too much thought being put into how to do these things correctly. But they're both great. You know, this may be the match where I realize WWE's really now behind everyone. I watch baseball, stadiums packed with people. AEW has people. This is a match that needed people there, not those monitors. At this point, WWE just feels like they're way behind everyone. It's still these monitors, this Thunderdome crap. I think they needed people there. I think Charlotte is great as always. I hadn't seen her in a little while. She appears to have lost weight. I don't think she needed to, but she was noticeably skinnier, but she's always great. Rhea Ripley's always great. They haven't had the classic match yet. That's what they need to do, but I think you need people there.
Yeah, they got to have people for that. And hopefully that, well, maybe SummerSlam, who knows what they're going to do. But you mentioned one thing. They're not trying. Now, I'm not saying the talent, but whoever's doing these finishes or calling them, approving them, or whatever, they're not trying. If you think about it, they don't have to. That is another byproduct of not having to. They don't have to sell live tickets to return matches anymore. They are still. They're going to go back to selling live tickets, but they're only going to be in a town once a year, if that. A huge market, maybe Chicago, they might. Twice a year. There's no return matches anymore. They don't care whether anybody buys the pay-per-views because I tried to and couldn't. Right? It's all about the streaming and the cock. There are no reasons to do. I mean, there's still the same reason there always is, because if you don't have disputed finishes and controversial finishes and quirky finishes and things to keep things fresh, then you have no wrestling promotion, because then you're just doing matches for no reason and nobody gives a shit. But so the reason has always been to hook people's attention and get them interested, and they want to see the rematch. They want to see the tag match that comes from the single match when the guys interfered. They want to see what's next and how it builds and where it finally pays off. That's the whole idea to watch this shit. But the promoters cared more about it and the bookers cared more about it in the days where they could financially and almost immediately see a difference. If their finishes weren't good, if their DQ didn't lead to the people wanting to see the no DQ match or whatever, then by the next week your gate was down, you could tell. And at least even then, 30 years ago, your pay-per-view buy rate sucked. So you could tell you're doing bad finishes that's not creating interest. You're not getting your talent over. People don't care about the program. Now they don't care about the fucking finishes because it's not going to affect their income at this point with guaranteed TV rights and fucking live gates are like, the cherry on the sundae. They don't give a shit whether anybody comes back. And they may give a shit, but it's not life and death. And life and death, in terms of whether you paid your bills or not, or stayed in business or not, or lived in a mansion or not, or had hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash secreted away for a rainy day or not, that's what kept all those promoters in business 52 weeks a year. And that's what kept them fucking thinking about different finishes and ways to do things to hook people and get them to come back again. And there's no necessity to that anymore. Anyway, I have gotten off the soapbox now after that, and we've come to our main event.